Blood pooled around Aisha's body at the gas station as Officer Grayson smugly holstered his weapon. In the darkness nearby, Marcus Scott watched silently, his Delta Force training suddenly serving a new mission. The badge that shot his sister would soon learn some predators become prey. Before we dive into this shocking story of justice and vengeance, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever witnessed injustice and wanted to see it corrected. Now let's see how an elite soldier brings a corrupt system to its knees. Marcus Scott felt the familiar weight of home as his plane touched down in Riverdale after 15 years away. At 38, his body carried the invisible scars of countless classified Delta Force operations across the globe. The terminal felt surreal after so many war zones, but one constant remained the same: his sister Aisha's radiant smile as she waved frantically from beyond the security checkpoint. They embraced tightly, her petite 5'4" frame dwarfed by his muscular 6'2" stature. "Look at you, big brother," she beamed, studying the lines around his eyes. "Still saving the world." Marcus smiled, the rare, genuine expression he reserved only for her. "Just doing my job, nothing heroic about it. You're the one becoming a doctor." Aisha rolled her eyes playfully as they walked to her car. "Almost. One more year of med school, then residency. Meanwhile, these night shifts at Memorial are killing me." The drive from the airport gave them precious time to reconnect. Marcus asked about their parents who had moved to Florida for retirement but couldn't travel back for his surprise visit. Aisha filled him in on neighborhood changes, gentrification creeping in, housing prices skyrocketing, and tensions with the increasingly aggressive police presence. "Things have gotten weird here," she explained, her voice dropping slightly. "Especially in our old neighborhood, lots of random stops, searches, tickets for nothing." Marcus noted the change in her tone, but didn't press. His sister had always been outspoken about injustice, even as a child. After 40 minutes of catching up, Aisha pulled into a gas station. "Need to fill up and grab some snacks. Want anything?" Marcus shook his head, content to wait in the passenger seat while scrolling through messages from his team. Through the windshield, he observed Aisha entering the convenience store, her white medical coat still on from her hospital shift. Inside, Officer Bradley Grayson stood at the counter, his day already soured by the captain's announcement that he'd been passed over for promotion again. The 34-year-old officer had been with Riverdale PD for 12 years and felt entitled to advancement. Instead, some diversity hire got the nod. As he paid for his coffee, Aisha accidentally bumped his arm while reaching for her wallet. "I'm so sorry," she apologized immediately, noticing his uniform and the coffee that had sloshed slightly in his cup. Grayson turned slowly, his pale blue eyes taking in her appearance with unmistakable disdain. "Watch yourself," he said coldly. Something in his tone made Aisha step back. "Again, I apologize, officer. Complete accident." She quickly paid for her items and the gas, feeling his eyes on her back. As she walked to the pump, Grayson followed her outside, his hand resting casually on his holster. From the car, Marcus instantly noted the officer's body language and sat up straighter, instincts sharpening. "Miss, I need to see some ID," Grayson called out as Aisha began pumping gas. She turned, confused. "Is there a problem, officer?" "Just need to verify something. Clerk thinks you might have taken something." Aisha's face registered shock. "That's absolutely not true. I paid for everything." She gestured to her small bag of purchases and the receipt in her hand. "ID, now." Grayson's tone hardened as he stepped closer. Marcus watched his hand already on the door handle, years of threat assessment, calculating the escalating danger. Aisha slowly reached for her purse. "My wallet's right here along with my hospital ID. I'm a medical student at Riverdale Memorial." Grayson's face twisted slightly. "Sure you are. Hurry up." As Aisha opened her purse, her phone rang. Instinctively, she reached for it. "Don't move," Grayson shouted, drawing his weapon with alarming speed. "Hands where I can see them." "It's just my phone," Aisha said, voice trembling as she raised her hands. "I'm not doing anything wrong." "Reaching for something after I told you to get ID looks suspicious," Grayson snarled, weapon trained on her chest. "Turn around and get on your knees." "Please," Aisha pleaded. "This is a misunderstanding. I'm just getting gas after my hospital shift." Marcus was already moving, door opening silently, years of combat experience telling him this situation was seconds from disaster. Aisha, frightened but determined to de-escalate, slowly reached for her phone again. "I just want to record this. You have no reason to—" The gunshot echoed across the gas station. Aisha's body jerked backward, red blooming across her white coat as she collapsed beside the pump. Marcus froze momentarily in disbelief, then rushed toward his fallen sister as Grayson spoke into his radio. "Officer involved shooting at East Side gas station. Suspect down, attempted to draw weapon." Falling to his knees beside Aisha, Marcus cradled her head as blood soaked through her coat. Her eyes found his recognition and pain mingling. "Marcus," she whispered, blood bubbling at her lips. "They've been harassing us for weeks. Not random. Notebook." Her voice faded as life ebbed away. Sirens wailed in the distance as Grayson stood over them, weapon still drawn. "Back away from her, now!" The officer hadn't connected Marcus to the victim yet. Years of operating in hostile territory had taught Marcus when to fight and when to disappear. With his sister dead in his arms and rage building like a nuclear reactor in his chest, he made the tactical decision. Information first. Justice would follow. He gently laid Aisha's head down, memorized Grayson's badge number, and slipped into the gathering crowd of onlookers. By the time additional police and paramedics arrived, Marcus Scott had vanished into the night, a ghost with a singular new mission. Emergency services declared Aisha dead at the scene. Officer Grayson, already surrounded by fellow officers, began constructing his narrative. She was aggressive, refused commands, reached suddenly into her bag. Textbook threatening behavior. The responding sergeant nodded, already planning how to frame the report. None of them realized that in the shadows a Delta Force commander had just declared war. Rain fell softly on the cemetery. 3 days later, nature's tears joining those of the mourners gathered around Aisha Scott's casket. Marcus stood stoically beside his devastated parents, his military bearing intact while his soul raged. The official police statement had already hit the news. Officer forced to discharge weapon when medical student made threatening movement. No mention of the missing security footage, no questions about why a promising young doctor-to-be would suddenly attack police. Just another case closed before it opened. As the service concluded and mourners dispersed, a young woman with copper-brown skin and close-cropped hair approached Marcus. "You must be the brother she always talked about," she said, voice low. "I'm Tamara, Aisha's roommate and best friend." Marcus nodded, sensing something in her cautious approach. "She admired you so much," Tamara continued, glancing around to ensure privacy. "Called you her hero, said you always fought for what's right." She paused, then added, "We need to talk somewhere safe." They arranged to meet at a small coffee shop across town, away from the reception. When Marcus arrived, Tamara was already seated in a corner booth, a backpack clutched tightly in her lap. "Aisha wasn't just randomly targeted," she said without preamble once Marcus sat down. "She was documenting cases of police harassment in our neighborhood building, evidence of systematic targeting." Marcus felt a cold certainty settle in his gut. "Tell me everything." Tamara unzipped the backpack and removed a worn leather-bound journal and Aisha's laptop. She kept meticulous records, dates, times, officer names, badge numbers, witness statements. She was pre-med, so she approached it like a research study, proving a pattern. Marcus flipped through the journal, noting his sister's neat handwriting detailing dozens of incidents. "She never mentioned this when we spoke. She didn't want to worry you. Said you had enough weight on your shoulders." Tamara's eyes glistened. but she was worried these last few weeks. Said the same officers kept showing up, getting more aggressive. Grayson was the worst. As Marcus scrolled through files on the laptop, he discovered Aisha had connected with a community group tracking police abuses throughout Riverdale. Their data revealed a disturbing pattern. Excessive force incidents had tripled in specific neighborhoods over the past year, almost exclusively targeting minorities. One name appeared repeatedly in the complaints: Officer Bradley Grayson, with 16 excessive force allegations, all dismissed without investigation. Chief Richard Warren protects him, Tamara explained. They go way back, Army buddies or something. No matter what Grayson does, Warren makes it disappear. Marcus committed both names to memory. Anyone tried legal channels? Tamara nodded. There's a lawyer who took some cases pro bono last year, David Chen. Got nowhere, but he might talk to you. The following day, Marcus located Chen's modest office above a laundromat. The once idealistic attorney now looked beaten down. His shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms stained with ink, his desk buried under case files. "Another police brutality case?" Chen asked wearily after Marcus explained his connection to Aisha. "Save yourself the heartache. The system's rigged." "Explain," Marcus said simply, his intensity causing Chen to really look at him for the first time. Chen sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's a blue wall. Impenetrable. Every complaint disappears into internal affairs, never to be seen again. Body cam footage gets corrupted. Witnesses change statements after police visits. Judges throw out cases on technicalities." He pulled out a bottle of antacids. "I've filed 28 civil rights cases. 0 have made it to trial." "Tell me about Grayson and Chief Warren." Chen's eyebrows raised slightly. "You've done homework. Grayson's Warren's attack dog. There's rumors Warren's planning to run for mayor next year, positioning himself as the law and order candidate. Meanwhile, Grayson does the dirty work, keeping certain neighborhoods in line." Marcus noted Chen's careful phrasing. "Which neighborhoods specifically?" "Predominantly Black and Hispanic areas slated for urban renewal. Strange coincidence, right?" Chen's bitterness was palpable. Every time developers show interest in a neighborhood, suddenly there's a crime wave, increased police presence, arrests, property values drop, and land gets bought cheap. Marcus left with a clearer picture forming. That evening he watched the local news report on Aisha's shooting. The anchor's voice remained neutral as doctored gas station footage showed only the final seconds before the shooting, Aisha's movements made to appear erratic and threatening. No mention of her medical career or community work. Just another unfortunate incident. Making a decision. Marcus reached out to 3 trusted teammates from his Delta Force unit. Men who'd followed him through hell in multiple countries. Men who owed him their lives and asked no questions. Within 48 hours, Marcus had secured a small apartment with line of sight to the police station and began systematic surveillance. On day 3, he witnessed an unmarked police cruiser arrive late at night. Chief Warren emerged, followed by a well-dressed man in an expensive suit. They were met by Mayor Phillips, a thin man with silver hair who appeared nervous as they entered through a rear door. 4 hours later, using specialized audio equipment, Marcus recorded fragments of their conversation as they departed. "Keep it contained. Media narrative under control. Harlow needs this handled." The name Harlow triggered a new research direction. Victor Harlow, Marcus discovered, was Riverdale's most prominent real estate developer with deep pockets and political connections stretching to the state capitol. His company, Harlow Development Group, had recently announced a $2 billion Riverdale Renaissance project focused on the exact neighborhoods experiencing increased police activity. The following week, the police department released its findings. Officer Grayson had acted within departmental guidelines when confronted with a potentially life-threatening situation. He was cleared of all wrongdoing and would return to active duty immediately. A press conference showed Grayson standing stoically beside Chief Warren Mayor Phillips, offering words of support for our officers making split-second decisions in dangerous situations. Marcus closed his surveillance notebook and stared at the web of connections forming on his wall. Names, dates, property acquisitions, police reports, political donations. He wasn't facing just one corrupt cop. He was facing an entire system designed to protect itself while preying on those it claimed to serve. In that moment, Marcus Scott made a decision. He would become the ghost that haunted their system, the invisible force that would expose every dark corner, the predator they never saw coming. The encrypted message went out to 3 specific Delta Force operators who had served with Marcus for over a decade. Family emergency. Need specialized skills. Deniable. Within 48 hours, secure communications were established equipment delivered through untraceable channels, and the first phase of operation began. Marcus had spent a week studying Officer Bradley Grayson's routines, habits, and weaknesses. The 34-year-old patrolled predominantly minority neighborhoods with a particular focus on areas marked for redevelopment in Harlow's plans. Off-duty Grayson frequented Shooter's Bar near the station, often drinking heavily before driving home to his apartment in a middle-class neighborhood across town. Most interestingly, twice weekly, he visited High Stakes, an underground poker game run by local criminals who paid for police protection. One particular night, Marcus followed Grayson from his shift directly to High Stakes, observing as the officer lost several $1,000s he couldn't possibly afford on his salary. "I'll cover it next week," Grayson slurred to the impassive dealer. "You know I'm good for it." The dealer's expression didn't change. "Mr. Santos doesn't extend credit anymore, officer. Not after last time." Grayson's face darkened. "Tell Santos I kept his nephew out of jail last month. That's worth something." The following day, Marcus tracked Grayson to a traffic stop involving a young black man in a modest sedan. Through his directional microphone, Marcus heard Grayson growing increasingly aggressive despite the driver's polite compliance. When the driver asked why he'd been stopped, Grayson ordered him out of the vehicle. "Got an anonymous tip about drug activity matching this vehicle." The driver protested. "That's impossible. I'm a teacher at Riverdale Elementary." Grayson's partner searched the car while Grayson kept the man handcuffed against the hood. Marcus watched through high-powered optics as Grayson's partner gave a subtle head shake. Nothing found. Then, when the driver couldn't see, Grayson slipped something from his pocket and nodded to his partner, who discovered a small bag of white powder under the driver's seat during a second search. "Well, well," Grayson said loudly. "Looks like our teacher has a side hustle." The young man's desperate protests fell on deaf ears as he was arrested and his car impounded. Marcus had seen enough. That night he accessed the police evidence lockup using specialized entry techniques from his military training. Locating the planted evidence, he switched the contents with baking powder and placed a hidden micro-transmitter inside the evidence bag. The next morning, he anonymously contacted the teacher's family with the name of David Chin as legal representation, along with exactly where to find traffic camera footage showing Grayson's suspicious movements during the search. 3 days later, the case was thrown out of court when the evidence mysteriously tested negative for narcotics and the defense presented video suggesting evidence tampering. The judge, unusually harsh in her criticism of the arresting officers, ordered an internal investigation. It was a small victory, but Marcus was just getting started. Next, he focused on Grayson's digital footprint. Using specialized hacking equipment provided by his Delta teammates, Marcus gained access to Grayson's personal devices, discovering hundreds of racist text messages and emails exchanged with fellow officers, including several discussing how to clean up certain neighborhoods by making examples. Most disturbing were messages between Grayson and Chief Warren discussing specific properties that needed to be devalued before acquisition dates. Marcus compiled the most damning communications and anonymously delivered them to Sophia Reynolds, a young reporter at the Riverdale Chronicle known for her integrity and persistence. "Sources inside RPD confirm pattern of targeted harassment," read the headline 3 days later. While the article carefully avoided direct accusations of evidence planting, it raised serious questions about the concentration of drug arrests in neighborhoods slated for redevelopment. The story included redacted versions of some of Grayson's texts, enough to cause public outrage without revealing Marcus's methods. The effect on Grayson was immediate and satisfying. The officer began looking over his shoulder, checking his phone for surveillance, growing increasingly paranoid. During one shift, he nearly pulled his weapon on a teenager who approached him for directions. His partner had to intervene, leading to a heated argument captured by bystanders' cell phones and uploaded to social media. Chief Warren summoned Grayson to his office. "You're becoming a liability," Warren hissed, unaware of the directional microphone Marcus had positioned on the building opposite. "We've contained the damage from the Scott shooting, but you're drawing attention we don't need right now. Harlow's timeline is critical. Get yourself under control, or you're on traffic duty in the suburbs." The mention of a timeline prompted Marcus to accelerate his plans. That night, using techniques that had kept him alive behind enemy lines in multiple conflict zones, Marcus infiltrated the police headquarters evidence room. He spent 3 hours photographing files on previous excessive force cases, particularly those involving Officer Grayson and other officers mentioned in the text messages. The pattern was undeniable. Excessive force complaints spiked dramatically in neighborhoods shortly before property acquisitions by Harlow Development Group. In each case, internal affairs investigations disappeared or concluded with no wrongdoing found. What do you think about a system that allows police officers to plant evidence and falsely arrest innocent citizens? Comment. Number 1. If you believe police should be held to higher standards than the average citizen. Like this video. If you think there should be independent civilian oversight of all police departments, and subscribe for more stories of justice being served to those who abuse their power. Now, what would you do if you discovered your local police department was working with developers to harass residents out of their homes? Let's see what Marcus does next. The summer heat pressed down on Riverdale as Marcus expanded his investigation beyond Grayson to the entire system protecting him. Using specialized surveillance equipment, he documented Mayor Phillips meeting privately with Victor Harlow late at night at Harlow's office, their conversation revealing the mayor's financial interest in the redevelopment projects. "The council votes next month on the zoning changes," Phillips said nervously. "We need to show crime statistics supporting the increased police presence, or the community activists will block everything." Harlow, a tall man with steel gray hair and cold eyes, dismissed the concern with a wave of his manicured hand. "That's why we have Warren and his attack dogs. The statistics will show whatever we need them to show." Armed with mounting evidence, Marcus contacted Tamara, arranging a secure meeting at a 24-hour diner outside town. "I need to connect with Aisha's community group," he explained, showing her some of the evidence he'd gathered. "This goes beyond one bad cop. The entire system is corrupted." Tamara studied the documents, her expression hardening. "Justice for Communities meets tomorrow night. I'll take you, but some members will be suspicious. They've been burned before." The meeting took place in a church basement, 30 community members from various neighborhoods targeted for redevelopment. Marcus observed silently as they shared stories of increased traffic stops, noise complaints, loitering charges, and other minor infractions suddenly being enforced aggressively in their neighborhoods. An elderly man named Reverend Jackson finally addressed the elephant in the room. "We've got a new face tonight. Who's vouching for him?" Tamara stood. "This is Aisha Scott's brother. Military background. He's been gathering evidence on what happened to her and why." All eyes turned to Marcus, who stepped forward. "My sister was murdered because she was documenting what's happening here. I have evidence connecting her killing to a larger scheme involving the police department, Mayor Phillips, and Harlow Development." He laid out his findings methodically, showing connections between police harassment, property devaluation, and development plans. "They're using the police to push you out so Harlow can buy property cheaply." The room erupted in angry conversations until Reverend Jackson raised his hands. "What exactly are you proposing, son?" Marcus's expression remained calm, but his eyes burned with intensity. "A coordinated response. Peaceful legal but impossible to ignore. I need your community knowledge, connections, and visibility. In return, I'll provide evidence that can't be buried." By the meeting's end, a plan had formed. 3 days later, over 200 community members gathered outside police headquarters for a peaceful protest demanding accountability for Aisha Scott's death and an independent investigation into policing practices. Marcus remained in the background documenting everything as Tamara and Reverend Jackson led chants of "Justice for Aisha" and "Community Oversight Now." The police response came swiftly and disproportionately. Riot gear, pepper spray, officers on horseback. Marcus had anticipated this, positioning community members with cameras throughout the area, capturing multiple angles as officers, including Grayson, used excessive force against peaceful protesters. Within hours, footage of elderly women being shoved to the ground and teenagers in Black Lives Matter shirts being pepper sprayed flooded social media. National news organizations picked up the story, contrasting police violence with the protesters' peaceful approach. Sophia Reynolds' coverage in the Riverdale Chronicle went further, connecting the protest to her ongoing investigation into targeted policing in redevelopment zones. As public attention increased, Marcus escalated his strategy. He compiled comprehensive evidence packages on the entire corruption network and sent them to the FBI field office and Department of Justice. Through careful tracking methods, he discovered the evidence was received but mysteriously stalled. Someone with federal connections was blocking the investigation. Meanwhile, Grayson was becoming increasingly unstable. Marcus's surveillance captured him drinking on duty, making threatening comments about protesters, and having heated arguments with fellow officers. During one particularly revealing moment, Grayson's partner confronted him. "You're out of control, Brad. That shooting was bad enough, but you're making things worse." Grayson's response was chilling. "Warren promised this would blow over, said Harlow would take care of any problems." Marcus infiltrated Grayson's apartment while he was on duty, planting sophisticated listening devices. That evening, he recorded a conversation between Grayson and Harlow himself. "The protests are drawing too much attention," Harlow said coldly. "The timeline is threatened. Warren says you're becoming erratic." Grayson's voice was slurred from alcohol. "I did exactly what you people wanted. Kept pressure on those neighborhoods, made arrests, followed the plan. Then that medical student started asking questions, recording interactions. What was I supposed to do?" Harlow's tone turned threatening. "You were supposed to handle it professionally, not create a martyr. Now fix it, or you'll find yourself taking the fall alone." The following day, Mayor Phillips held a press conference defending the police department while announcing an exciting urban renewal initiative that would revitalize struggling neighborhoods. Standing beside him, Victor Harlow smiled benevolently as he promised job creation and economic growth. Marcus had heard enough. That night, he followed Harlow to the exclusive Riverdale Country Club, where the developer met with city officials, investors, and Chief Warren in a private dining room. Using specialized audio equipment, Marcus recorded their unguarded conversation about the Riverdale Renaissance Project. "The beauty of this approach," Harlow explained to the assembled power brokers, "is that property values are declining precisely where we need them to. When people feel unsafe, they sell cheap." A city council member laughed. "And nothing makes people feel unsafe like active policing, right, Chief?" Warren nodded, raising his whiskey glass. "My officers understand their role in community improvement. Strategic enforcement encourages undesirable elements to relocate." An investor spoke up. "The protesters are becoming a problem. That Scott girl's case is getting national attention." Harlow waved dismissively. "A temporary inconvenience. Once the properties are secured, we'll announce community policing initiatives, diversity training, all that good PR. The press will move on to the next outrage, and we'll be breaking ground." Marcus delivered the recording to Sophia Reynolds that night. Her bombshell story connecting police violence directly to gentrification plans appeared online by morning and in print the following day. The mayor's office issued immediate denials, but the damage was done. Facing mounting public pressure and media scrutiny, the police department placed Officer Grayson on administrative leave pending further investigation, a transparent attempt to contain the damage. Marcus knew the conspiracy would now take more drastic measures to protect itself. The predators were wounded, which made them more dangerous than ever. The emergency meeting convened in Mayor Phillips's wood-paneled office just after midnight. Chief Warren paced nervously while Victor Harlow sat calmly, his expensive suit unwrinkled despite the late hour. "This is spiraling out of control," Phillips hissed, loosening his tie. "The governor called today. The FBI is making noise about a civil rights investigation." Warren slammed his fist on the desk. "I told you Grayson was becoming a problem. He's drinking heavily, talking too much. If he breaks, this all unravels." Harlow's cold voice cut through the tension. "Then he becomes our scapegoat. One rogue officer, a few departmental failures. A convenient narrative that protects the larger interests." "He knows too much," Warren objected. "If he talks, then ensure he doesn't," Harlow interrupted. "Your career is finished if this continues. Make arrangements for Officer Grayson to take an extended, well-funded vacation somewhere far away. Florida, perhaps. Make it clear that his silence is purchased at a premium, but any deviation means both the money and protection disappear." Marcus, monitoring the conversation through specialized equipment from his surveillance apartment, recorded everything. His Delta Force training had taught him to anticipate enemy movements, and the conspiracy was now acting predictably, cutting loose liabilities, consolidating defenses. The next morning, his prediction proved correct when 6 police officers in tactical gear raided Tamara's home on fabricated drug charges. They ransacked the residence, confiscating computers, phones, and all documentation related to the community group's police accountability efforts. Tamara herself was detained for 8 hours before being released without charges. The message was clear: the system was fighting back. Simultaneously, Sophia Reynolds was summoned to her editor's office at the Riverdale Chronicle. "The story is being killed," the editor informed her, avoiding eye contact. "We've received multiple threats of litigation from Harlow's attorneys. The publisher won't risk it." "This is blatant suppression," Sophia argued. "We have recordings, documents, connections." "And I have a mortgage and kids in college," the editor interrupted. "Harlow made some calls. Advertising revenue would disappear overnight. The paper can't survive that." Later that day, Marcus detected police teams sweeping areas near his surveillance locations using electronic countermeasure equipment. They'd discovered some of his devices and were hunting for the source. "Domestic terrorist threat," the police radio crackled. "Unknown suspect conducting illegal surveillance of law enforcement. Considered armed and extremely dangerous." Marcus quickly relocated his operation, abandoning the apartment minutes before police tactical units breached the door. While monitoring police communications from his new position, Marcus intercepted an unusual transmission: FBI team arriving to take lead on Scott investigation. Special Agent Diaz expected at 1600 hours. This development required investigation. Using his military contacts, Marcus vetted FBI agent Catherine Diaz, decorated bureau veteran specializing in public corruption cases, with a reputation for integrity. After 3 days of careful observation to ensure she wasn't compromised, Marcus arranged indirect contact through an encrypted message: "Information on Scott case and Riverdale corruption available. Proof of conspiracy between RPD Mayor's office and Harlow Development." To his surprise, Diaz responded through the secure channel: "Been investigating Harlow for 18 months. Treasury flagged suspicious transactions between offshore accounts and local officials. Need your evidence." After establishing protocols to protect both their identities, Marcus began sharing selected information with Agent Diaz, discovering she led a small FBI team investigating real estate fraud and money laundering across multiple cities, with Harlow as their primary target. "Your sister's murder accelerated our timeline," Diaz explained during their first secure communication. "But we've hit roadblocks. Someone's protecting Harlow from above." As they coordinated efforts, Marcus continued monitoring Grayson, who appeared increasingly desperate. The officer had been drinking heavily, making paranoid phone calls to fellow officers, and liquidating personal assets. Marcus intercepted a message Grayson sent from a burner phone: "Need to talk. Have insurance policy. Not taking the fall alone." The message was sent to Marcus's own encrypted drop, suggesting Grayson somehow knew who was hunting him. After careful consideration, Marcus arranged a meeting at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, taking extensive precautions against a trap. Grayson arrived alone, disheveled and obviously intoxicated. "I know you're Aisha Scott's brother," he called out to the shadows where Marcus concealed himself. "Military guy, right? Been watching me messing with my life." Marcus remained silent, assessing the situation as Grayson continued. "Look, I didn't mean to shoot her. Things got out of hand, but I wasn't the one who wanted her stopped. They told me she was documenting police activity in targeted zones, interfering with the development plan." "Who gave those orders?" Marcus finally spoke, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Grayson laughed bitterly. "Warren taking orders from Harlow, who takes orders from people you don't want to know about. Big money, state-level connections. I've got documentation, though. Emails, recordings, meeting notes, insurance policy." He patted his jacket pocket. "Willing to trade. Full confession about your sister for protection from them." As Marcus considered the offer, his enhanced senses detected movement outside the building. Multiple approaching vehicles with engines cutting simultaneously. Seconds later, his tactical radio intercepted police communications. "Target located. Primary and Scott, subject both on site. Green light for full tactical response." The meeting was indeed a trap, but not of Grayson's making. He'd been tracked, used as bait. The police tactical unit breached multiple entrance points, simultaneously firing flashbang grenades and shouting contradictory commands. In the chaos, Marcus saw Grayson reach for what appeared to be his documentation, but a sniper's shot rang out, striking the officer in the chest. Using his Delta Force training, Marcus engaged in a fighting retreat, employing diversionary tactics to escape through a pre-planned exit route as gunfire erupted throughout the building. Officer Bradley Grayson died at the scene, the official report claiming he had drawn his weapon on the tactical team after luring a dangerous suspect to the location. The media portrayed Marcus as a vigilante who had executed a police officer, with Mayor Phillips condemning this heinous attack on law enforcement. Security was increased throughout the city as the manhunt intensified for the cop killer still at large. With his cover blown and evidence mounting that the conspiracy reached higher than he initially believed, Marcus went deep underground, treating Riverdale as hostile territory, requiring extreme operational security. His injuries from the warehouse escape required medical attention, but hospitals would be watched. As he prepared improvised treatment for a bullet graze and multiple lacerations, his secure phone vibrated with an incoming message from his Delta Force team. "Package received. Assets inbound. Hold position." The hunters were about to become the hunted. "Do you believe law enforcement should be allowed to use lethal force to silence those who threaten to expose corruption?" Comment number 1. If you think there should be stronger whistleblower protections for officers who want to report misconduct. Like this video if you believe civilians should have the right to record police interactions without fear of retaliation. Subscribe if you want to see more stories about the fight against systemic corruption. Now, with Marcus injured and hunted while Officer Grayson lies dead, how will the truth about Aisha's murder ever come to light? Let's find out. The abandoned textile factory on the outskirts of Riverdale had been Marcus's contingency location, pre-stocked with supplies, communication equipment, and medical necessities. As he treated his injuries with military efficiency, the security system he'd installed alerted him to approaching figures. Through the surveillance monitor, he recognized the distinctive movement patterns of his Delta Force teammates before they even came into view. Jackson Rodriguez and Chen, men who had followed him through the worst combat zones on Earth without question. Men who understood that sometimes justice required operating in the shadows. "You look like hell, Commander," Jackson said by way of greeting his massive frame filling the doorway. He dropped a heavy duffel bag of equipment on the floor, while Rodriguez, the team medic, immediately moved to properly treat Marcus's wounds. Chen, their technology specialist, was already setting up advanced communications gear. "Appreciate the response time. Marcus replied, wincing as Rodriguez cleaned the bullet graze on his arm. Situations escalated beyond initial assessment. Jackson nodded grimly. We monitored news channels on the drive in. You're being painted as a cop-killing vigilante. Chief Warren's calling for shoot-on-sight authorization. Chen looked up from his equipment. The narrative stinks. Classic character assassination and disinformation. Same tactics we've seen in psychological operations overseas, just domestically applied. Once Marcus was patched up, he briefed his team on everything that had transpired since Aisha's murder, from the corruption network connecting the police department to real estate development to the ambush that killed Grayson. They eliminated Grayson when he became a liability, he concluded. Same playbook they've used before, just more desperate now. What about this FBI agent? Rodriguez asked, his normally jovial face serious. Can she be trusted? Before Marcus could answer, a secure communication alert sounded on Chen's equipment. Agent Diaz was attempting contact through their encrypted channel. After security verification, her voice came through, tense and hurried. Grayson's death was a sanctioned hit. Warren ordered it personally, but approval came from above. I've been called to the federal building and told to turn over all case files related to Harlow. My investigation is being shut down through political channels. Can you get to our location safely? Marcus asked. I'm being watched, but I have a window tonight during shift change. Send coordinates through usual channel. And Scott, I'm bringing everything I have. If they're shutting me down, the files are going public. After the call ended, Marcus turned to his team. We establish a new secure base, full surveillance coverage of key locations, and accelerate evidence gathering. The conspiracy's showing weakness, making mistakes due to pressure. Within 24 hours, the Delta team had transformed their operation. Chen established an advanced surveillance network covering the police station, City Hall, Harlow's office, and other key locations. Rodriguez secured additional medical supplies and weapons through untraceable channels. Jackson coordinated with trusted community contacts, creating a civilian intelligence network through Tamara and Reverend Jackson's group. When Agent Diaz arrived that evening, she brought 6 years of financial investigation files on Victor Harlow. His development projects follow the same pattern in 3 different cities, she explained, spreading documents across their planning table. First, identify neighborhoods with potential for gentrification. Second, make political donations to local officials. Third, mysterious crime waves justify increased policing. Fourth, property values drop. Fifth, acquisition through shell companies. Sixth, announce revitalization with taxpayer subsidies. The perfect predatory cycle, Marcus observed. Legal on paper, criminal in execution. Diaz nodded. We traced offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands receiving payments from Harlow's shell companies, then making distributions to accounts linked to Chief Warren. He's received over $2 million in the past 3 years. Chen whistled. No wonder he protects Grayson and the others. They're his enforcement arm. What about Mayor Phillips? Marcus asked. Diaz pulled out another file. Harder to prove financially, but he's been promised political support for a state senate run. Harlow's connections reach the governor's office and beyond. The team worked through the night, integrating Diaz's financial evidence with Marcus's surveillance data. The following morning, Chen made a breakthrough while monitoring police communications. They're sweeping the evidence room, removing files related to excessive force complaints in redevelopment zones. Simultaneously, Jackson reported from his community sources that Tamara had been released from jail charges, mysteriously dropped. They're cleaning house, Marcus concluded, removing evidence, silencing witnesses through intimidation or appeasement. We need to move faster, Diaz urged. If they're destroying evidence, our window is closing. Marcus made a decision. Tonight we infiltrate Harlow's office during his charity fundraiser. The building will be accessible with minimal security on the executive floor while everyone's at the event. The operation proceeded with military precision. While Harlow hosted Riverdale's elite at his foundation's annual gala, Marcus and Chen accessed his private office through service areas, bypassing security systems using techniques perfected in hostile territories worldwide. Chen deployed specialized equipment to extract data from Harlow's computer systems, while Marcus photographed physical documents from a hidden safe. The intelligence haul exceeded expectations. Complete financial records of payments to police officials, property acquisition strategies targeting minority neighborhoods, and communications with state-level politicians regarding infrastructure funding tied to the redevelopment projects. While Marcus's team consolidated their evidence, the community resistance gained momentum. Tamara, though shaken by her detention, reorganized the Justice for Communities group with Marcus's clandestine support. Their protests grew larger now, including white residents concerned about corruption and police overreach. National civil rights organizations arrived in Riverdale, bringing media attention that the local authorities couldn't control. Marcus observed these developments with strategic satisfaction. Public pressure created operational opportunities while dividing the conspiracy's attention. During a surveillance shift, Chen detected unusual activity on police radio frequencies. "They're segregating communications," he reported. "Some officers are being excluded from tactical channels." Further investigation revealed a pattern. Officers with clean records or who had questioned department actions were being isolated from what Warren called special operation planning. "He's identifying officers willing to participate in corruption versus those who might resist," Marcus noted. "We can use that division." Through careful vetting, Marcus identified Captain Thomas Reed, a 20-year department veteran who had attempted to investigate Grayson the previous year before being shut down by Warren. Though currently sidelined to administrative duties, Reed had access to department systems and importantly appeared to maintain personal integrity despite the corrupt environment. Agent Diaz made indirect contact with Reed through professional channels, carefully assessing his reliability before revealing any connection to their investigation. After 3 meetings, she reported back, "Reed's solid. He tried to report Warren to Internal Affairs last year after discovering evidence tampering in excessive force cases. Was threatened with fabricated corruption charges if he didn't back down. Has documentation he's kept in a personal safe." This new alliance provided crucial insider intelligence. Reed confirmed that Warren had ordered the ambush that killed Grayson, worried the officer would seek immunity in exchange for testimony. He also revealed that several officers were growing uncomfortable with department actions, but feared retaliation if they spoke out. "Most joined to protect and serve," Reed explained during a secure meeting. "They're trapped in a system that punishes integrity and rewards compliance." As their evidence mounted, Marcus implemented comprehensive operational security. Team members rotated surveillance duties, maintained separate safe houses, and used counter-surveillance techniques to detect and evade police search efforts. The hunter had become the hunted, but Marcus's lifetime of training had prepared him for exactly this scenario. Their breakthrough came when Reed provided access to the department's server during a scheduled maintenance window. Chen extracted thousands of internal communications, including emails between Warren and Mayor Phillips discussing how to contain the Scott situation and maintain Harlow's timeline despite complications. The conspiracy was fully documented connections, established evidence secured. Now they needed the perfect moment to expose everything simultaneously before the network could react and destroy additional evidence. The opportunity presented itself in the form of the upcoming City Council meeting, where Mayor Phillips would be seeking approval for zoning changes critical to Harlow's development plans. Marcus began preparing for what would be their one chance to bring the entire corrupt system crashing down. What would you do if you discovered the police in your community were working with corrupt politicians and developers? Comment. Number 1. If you believe citizens have a responsibility to expose corruption even at personal risk. Like this video. If you think we need stronger protections for whistleblowers who expose government misconduct. Subscribe if you want to see more stories about ordinary people fighting extraordinary battles against corrupt systems. Now, with all the evidence gathered and the corrupt officials closing ranks, how will Marcus finally bring justice for his sister? Let's find out in our next segment. The city council chamber would become their battlefield, a public forum where the conspiracy could not hide behind closed doors or classified reports. Marcus and his team spent 5 days planning every detail, anticipating all possible responses and preparing contingencies. "We need to create division among the conspirators before the meeting," Marcus explained during their strategy session. "When threatened, they'll turn on each other if we apply pressure correctly." The psychological operation began with Marcus feeding slightly different information to different suspects. To Mayor Phillips's office, an anonymous tip suggested Chief Warren was preparing to offer evidence in exchange for immunity. To Warren, a fabricated internal memo indicated the mayor was discussing a personnel change at the police department to address public concerns. To Harlow, financial documents were sent suggesting his partners were negotiating separately with federal authorities. The effects were immediate and satisfying. Security cameras captured Harlow confronting Chief Warren in the police station parking garage, their body language hostile and defensive. Mayor Phillips began canceling joint appearances with the police department, issuing statements about reviewing departmental policies and taking community concerns seriously. The fracturing of their alliance created vulnerability the team could exploit. Meanwhile, Marcus arranged for comprehensive documentation of the conspiracy to be anonymously delivered to all city council members 48 hours before the meeting. The packages included evidence of coordinated police harassment in neighborhoods targeted for redevelopment, financial connections between Harlow and city officials, and the systematic burial of excessive force complaints. "Most council members aren't part of the conspiracy," Agent Diaz had explained. "They're just uninformed or intimidated. Give them irrefutable evidence and political cover to act. Some will find their courage." To ensure maximum public attendance at the normally sparsely attended council meeting, Chen hacked into the city's emergency alert system, sending notifications about important zoning decisions affecting property values to thousands of residents. Marcus also coordinated with Tamara to ensure families of police violence victims would attend in force, creating a moral presence the council couldn't ignore. Sophia Reynolds, now working with a national news outlet after being forced out of the local paper, prepared an explosive story timed to publish during the council meeting. Her new position provided greater protection against local pressure tactics and a much wider audience. As the operation accelerated, Marcus positioned his Delta Force teammates at strategic locations throughout the city. Jackson coordinated security for key witnesses, ensuring they could reach the council meeting safely. Rodriguez established medical response capabilities, anticipating possible violence. Chen prepared to override the council chamber's communication systems if necessary. The night before the council meeting, Marcus made his riskiest move yet, a direct confrontation with Victor Harlow. The developer was working late in his office, reviewing documents for the following day's zoning vote. His security detail maintained standard positions, unaware of the Delta Force commander who had infiltrated the building through maintenance areas. When Harlow looked up from his desk, Marcus was sitting calmly across from him, a small recording device visibly activated between them. "You murdered my sister," Marcus stated, his voice controlled despite the rage beneath. "Not personally, of course. You prefer to keep your hands clean while others do your dirty work." Harlow's momentary shock quickly transformed into composed arrogance. "I don't know who you are or how you got in here, but you're making a serious mistake. One phone call and security will take approximately 27 seconds to reach this office," Marcus finished for him. "I've timed it. We have a brief conversation, then I leave. The building's on lockdown. I've accounted for that too." Something in Marcus's calm certainty made Harlow reassess the situation. His hand moved away from the panic button under his desk. "What do you want?" "Confirmation," Marcus replied, sliding photographs across the desk. Surveillance images of Harlow meeting with Chief Warren and Mayor Phillips the night after Aisha's shooting. "Your development plans required clearing certain neighborhoods. My sister documented the harassment. Officer Grayson removed the problem under orders. I want to hear you admit it." Harlow laughed coldly. "You're recording this, meaningless, inadmissible, and after tomorrow's council vote, irrelevant. The zoning changes will be approved, the development proceeds, and this sad little crusade of yours ends." My sister was becoming a doctor. She would have saved countless lives. Collateral damage in progress. Harlow dismissed with a wave. Cities evolve. Neighborhoods change. Those without power get displaced. It's the natural order. And the police are your enforcers. They serve their purpose like everyone else in this city. Harlow leaned forward. You think you're exposing some grand conspiracy. This is simply business efficiently conducted. The same process happens in every city, just usually with more bureaucracy and time. We've merely streamlined it. Marcus stood pocketing the recorder. Thank you for the confirmation. Harlow's composure cracked slightly. You won't leave this building. My security team has been temporarily occupied with a distraction on the parking level. Marcus interrupted. Standard tactics. Create diversion, accomplish objective, exfiltrate. For the first time, genuine concern crossed Harlow's face. Who exactly are you? I'm the brother of the woman your system murdered. Beyond that, I'm irrelevant. The evidence speaks for itself. As Marcus turned to leave, Harlow pressed the panic button. Alarms immediately blared throughout the building. You've accomplished nothing, Harlow shouted over the noise. I have connections you can't imagine. Political protection at levels you'll never reach. This changes nothing. Marcus paused at the door. You're partially right. Some corrupt systems are too entrenched for one person to change. That's why I'm not acting alone. He disappeared into the hallway as security personnel rushed toward the office from the opposite direction. Harlow immediately contacted his private security team, deploying them throughout the city to locate Marcus before the council meeting. Police units joined the search after Harlow called Chief Warren directly. Find him, Harlow ordered. Whatever it takes, he cannot be allowed to present his evidence tomorrow. As dawn broke on the day of the council meeting, police tactical units converged on an abandoned warehouse where an informant claimed Marcus was hiding. They found evidence of recent occupation, communications equipment, planning materials, maps of City Hall, but no sign of Marcus himself. Chief Warren coordinated the search from the Tactical Operations Center, growing increasingly desperate as the council meeting approached with no sign of their target. He has to be somewhere, Warren growled into his radio. Lock down all routes to City Hall. Check every building within 3 blocks. He will not set foot in that council chamber. As police resources concentrated around City Hall, Marcus watched from an unexpected vantage point, already in position for the final act of his mission. The trap was set, and the hunters had walked right into it. The Riverdale City Council chamber filled beyond capacity as citizens responded to the emergency alerts and community organizing. Television cameras from local and national news outlets positioned for maximum coverage of the contentious zoning vote. Security was unprecedented. Police officers stationed at every entrance, metal detectors installed, overnight tactical units visibly positioned around the building. Mayor Phillips entered through a side door, his customary confidence noticeably diminished as he surveyed the overflow crowd. Victor Harlow sat in the front row, flanked by attorneys and security personnel, his expression betraying irritation at the unexpected public interest. Chief Warren stood near the main entrance, constantly checking his radio for updates on the manhunt for Marcus Scott. As the meeting was called to order, Council President Garcia addressed the unusual attendance. Before we begin today's agenda, I want to acknowledge the significant public interest in the proposed zoning changes. We'll allow extended public comment period before the vote. Mayor Phillips immediately objected. Madam President, given security concerns and credible threats against city officials, I recommend we proceed directly to the vote and limit public exposure. His suggestion triggered angry murmurs from the crowd. Council President Garcia checked her tablet, then looked up with a curious expression. I've just received documentation that appears relevant to today's vote. In fact, all council members received similar materials yesterday. She held up a thumb drive. Given the serious nature of these allegations, I believe we should— Her words cut off as all screens in the council chamber suddenly went dark, then simultaneously illuminated with the same image, a split screen of Aisha Scott in her medical school white coat alongside her bloodied body at the gas station. The chamber erupted in gasps and shouts as the monitors began playing a meticulously edited presentation of evidence. Multiple camera angles of the gas station shooting appeared, clearly showing Aisha making no threatening movements before Officer Grayson fired. Audio recordings played of Chief Warren ordering evidence tampering, delete the convenience store footage, replace it with the edited version. The narrative is, she threatened him, reached for a weapon. Financial records scrolled across the screens showing payments from Harlow's offshore accounts to shell companies connected to Warren and other department officials. Maps displayed the perfect correlation between neighborhoods experiencing increased police activity and properties targeted for Harlow's development. Email exchanges between Mayor Phillips and state officials promised political advancement in exchange for ensuring the Riverdale Renaissance project proceeded without obstacles. The presentation continued relentlessly, years of corruption exposed in minutes of irrefutable evidence. Mayor Phillips lunged for the audio-visual controls, shouting for technicians to shut it down immediately. Outside the chamber, protesters blocked police from entering, while officers already inside appeared frozen, uncertain whether to intervene or distance themselves from the exposed corruption. Across the city, the same presentation broadcast simultaneously on local television stations, social media platforms, and public screens. Chen's technical expertise, ensuring no single point could stop the information flow. As the evidence presentation concluded, the screens switched to a live feed of Marcus Scott, his location unidentifiable. "My name is Marcus Scott," he stated calmly. "My sister Aisha was murdered by Officer Bradley Grayson under orders from Chief Richard Warren as part of a systematic campaign of harassment designed to devalue property in minority neighborhoods. This wasn't an isolated incident of police misconduct. It was business as usual in a corrupt system that treats certain citizens as obstacles to profit rather than people deserving protection." The chamber remained stunned into silence as Marcus continued. "Every document, recording, and financial record you've just seen has been authenticated and provided to federal authorities, media organizations, and independent watchdogs nationwide. This evidence cannot be buried, dismissed, or explained away." In the council chamber, Chief Warren attempted to flee through a back exit but found FBI agent Diaz waiting with federal agents. "Richard Warren, you're under arrest for civil rights violations, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to murder," she announced, loud enough for nearby cameras to capture. Mayor Phillips clutched his chest, face contorted in pain as his aides called for medical assistance. City paramedics rushed to attend to his apparent heart attack while cameras continued rolling. At Harlow's office across town, his security team discovered their encrypted servers being accessed remotely, copying files to unknown locations. Their desperate attempts to shut down systems only accelerated the programmed evidence distribution. Back in the council chamber, the screen switched to a final piece of evidence: security footage from the warehouse where Grayson was killed, clearly showing the police tactical team executing him when he attempted to surrender with documentation. The footage contradicted every element of the official report of his death. As the presentation ended, the regular chamber systems resumed function. Into the stunned silence, a new figure walked confidently to the podium, Marcus Scott himself present in the chamber, despite the massive manhunt. The police officers nearest him didn't move to arrest him, their expressions showing confusion and conflict. "For those wondering how I evaded the police cordon," Marcus addressed the room, "I've been here since 4 this morning. Your security team conducted 3 sweeps and missed me each time. Old habits from military service." He placed a flash drive on the podium. This contains additional evidence that couldn't fit in the presentation, including testimonies from officers within the department who were pressured to participate in harassment campaigns or face retaliation. From the back of the chamber, Captain Thomas Reed stepped forward, followed by 7 other officers. "Everything he's saying is true," Reed announced. "I've documented illegal orders, evidence tampering, and retribution against officers who questioned tactics. I corroborate all allegations against Chief Warren and the department leadership." One by one, the officers with him nodded in confirmation. Marcus continued, his voice finally revealing emotion as he held up a letter. "This is my sister's medical school acceptance. She was 2 months from graduation, planning to serve in low-income communities like the one she came from. Her entire life was dedicated to helping others, while the system meant to protect her saw her as expendable." The chamber remained silent as Marcus concluded. "This isn't about one bad officer or isolated corruption. This is about systems designed to protect power and profit rather than people. My sister documented the truth, and it cost her life. The least we can do is ensure her death leads to meaningful change." As Marcus stepped away from the podium, Council President Garcia found her voice. "In light of this evidence, I move to table the zoning vote indefinitely and request federal oversight of the police department effective immediately." The motion passed unanimously. As Marcus walked toward the exit, the remaining police officers parted to let him pass. Then, in a moment captured by dozens of cameras, several officers formed a line and saluted him, a silent acknowledgement from those who had maintained their integrity despite the corrupt system around them. Outside, the gathered crowd erupted in applause as news of the council's decision spread. Marcus slipped away through a side exit where Jackson waited with a vehicle. "It's done," Marcus said simply as they drove away. "Phase 1 is done," Jackson corrected. "Systems like this don't change overnight, Commander. We've exposed the cancer, but treatment takes time." Marcus nodded, watching the city recede in the side mirror. "Then we make sure the treatment happens." 6 months transformed Riverdale in ways few could have imagined on that fateful council meeting day. The federal receivership of the police department removed 28 officers and administrators connected to the corruption scheme. Captain Thomas Reed, appointed interim police chief, implemented sweeping reforms, including community oversight, body camera requirements, and transparent complaint procedures. The Aisha Scott Foundation, established with funds from Marcus's military pension and community donations, provided scholarships for minority medical students and resources for police accountability projects nationwide. The spring morning found Marcus standing at his sister's grave, the polished granite headstone bearing the inscription, "Healer, Truth Teller, Catalyst for Change." He placed fresh flowers beside her medical school graduation photo, which the university had awarded posthumously. "You should be here," he said quietly, "wearing that white coat saving lives. Instead, you're saving communities in a different way." In the months since the exposure of the corruption network, the consequences had cascaded throughout Riverdale and beyond. Victor Harlow faced federal racketeering charges, his empire crumbling as investigations revealed similar schemes in 5 other cities. His development properties in Riverdale were seized and converted to affordable housing through a community land trust. Former Mayor Phillips, recovering from his heart attack, secured a reduced sentence by cooperating with authorities, providing evidence against higher-level officials who had supported the corruption. Most significantly, Marcus had testified before congressional hearings on the Aisha Scott Police Accountability Act, legislation requiring independent investigations of all police shootings and federal consequences for departments showing patterns of civil rights violations. "The fight continues," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to find Tamara approaching with a bouquet of her own. Now leading the Community Oversight Board with actual authority over police policies and disciplinary actions, she had become a powerful advocate for sustained reform. 26 cities have adopted our oversight model," she continued. "The templates you helped us create are spreading." Marcus nodded. "Systemic problems require systemic solutions. One exposed conspiracy or reform department isn't enough." After leaving Aisha's grave, Marcus drove to the Riverdale Community Center where Agent Diaz waited. Her Civil Rights Division work had expanded following the Riverdale case with new authority to investigate police departments nationwide. "Considering my offer," she asked as they walked through the building, "the Bureau could use someone with your skills training investigators." Marcus hesitated. "I'm still deciding my next steps. The military's been my whole life, but this mission feels unfinished." They paused at a window overlooking the police academy graduation ceremony in the adjacent park. The new cadet class represented the changing face of Riverdale law enforcement, more diverse, community-oriented, with training focused on de-escalation and constitutional rights. "They take their oath today under the new standards," Diaz noted, "including specific commitments to equal protection and accountability." The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for victims of past police violence. Aisha Scott's name read first among them. As the cadets dispersed, Marcus received a text message from Sophia Reynolds, whose reporting on the Riverdale corruption had earned national journalism awards and sparked investigations in multiple cities. Similar pattern identified in Westbrook County, family requesting assistance, details attached. Marcus studied the information. Another case of suspicious police violence in a neighborhood targeted for development, another grieving family seeking truth. His Delta team remained on standby, their unique skills now directed toward a different kind of mission. Outside the community center, Marcus encountered a small health clinic recently established in a formerly abandoned building. The sign above the entrance read, "Aisha Scott Memorial Clinic," providing free medical services to underserved residents. As he paused to observe the busy waiting room, a young black boy of about 10 approached him hesitantly. "Are you him?" the boy asked. "The man who made the police better?" Marcus knelt to the child's level. "No, I'm just someone who helped. It wasn't me alone. It was everyone who refused to accept injustice, your community. Brave officers who stood up for what's right, reporters who told the truth, everyone working together." The boy considered this, then nodded seriously. "My mom says I should be a police officer when I grow up, a good one." "The best kind," Marcus agreed, standing as the boy ran back to his waiting mother. Walking toward his car, Marcus noticed a police cruiser stopping beside a young black woman whose car had broken down. His body tensed automatically, old instincts preparing for intervention. But as the officer exited his vehicle, Marcus noted the body camera prominently displayed and the respectful way he approached offering assistance rather than suspicion. Marcus watched the interaction complete without incident, the officer helping the woman contact roadside assistance before departing with a friendly wave. A small moment, unremarkable in what it should be, revolutionary in what it represented. Driving away, Marcus passed the intersection where the gas station once stood. Now a community garden occupied the space with a small plaque honoring Aisha Scott. The system that had taken his sister's life was being dismantled and rebuilt piece by piece. The work would continue long after the headlines faded and public attention moved elsewhere. Justice wasn't a destination, but a continuing journey. Marcus Scott adjusted his rearview mirror, the city behind him transformed by tragedy into possibility. His phone buzzed with another message, his team ready for the next mission, the next community needing their particular skills. The hunt continued. What would you do if faced with corruption in your own community? Would you have the courage to stand up like Marcus did? Comment below with your thoughts on how ordinary citizens can fight against systemic injustice. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to support more content that explores these important issues. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the power of standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem impossible. Thank you for joining me on this journey through darkness into the new dawn of justice. The shadow of justice teaches us that true change requires more than individual heroism. It demands collective action against systemic corruption. When institutions meant to protect citizens become weapons against them, the battle for justice extends beyond personal vengeance to reforming entire systems. Marcus's military skills were necessary but insufficient. Lasting change came through building alliances across communities, honest law enforcement, determined journalists, and ethical public servants. The story demonstrates how racism and corruption often intertwine with economic interests, using power differentials to exploit vulnerable communities. It shows that documentation matters. Aisha's meticulous evidence gathering continued to speak truth even after her death. Perhaps most importantly, it reveals that justice isn't a single victory, but an ongoing commitment requiring vigilance, courage, and persistence. While corrupt systems seem overwhelming, they aren't invincible when faced with organized resistance and unwavering determination. When ordinary people refuse to accept injustice, even the most entrenched corruption can be dismantled piece by painstaking piece. What would you do if you witnessed racial injustice in your community? Would you have the courage to document it like Aisha, or stand against it like Marcus? Comment below with how you think ordinary citizens can fight systemic racism and corruption. If this story moved you, please hit that like button to help it reach others who need to hear this message. Subscribe for more powerful stories about justice, accountability, and the fight against discrimination. Share this video with someone who might feel powerless against corrupt systems. Let them know change is possible when we stand together. Thank you for listening to The Shadow of Justice. And remember, in the face of injustice, your voice and actions matter more than you know.